about that? So what I have here is SAS Studio. Now I have two SAS Studios. I got my instructor account, and this is my mock student account. So I have a pretend student account. Now what I'm going to do is, you can see that if you're a student, you can see Don Wedding right here. That's me. That's my instructor account. And if you actually, I've got a lot of folders that I've created. I kind of like to use folders as a way of keeping my stuff together. So if you take a look at my courses, and we look at Don Wedding, you can see I've got Unit 0, Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. And look, hey, by the way, guys, I got those NFL files. If you guys are monkeying around with CSV files, here's your NFL data. This is it right here. If anybody wants some 25 free points, give me a quick model. That's probably what you're going to want to do. But, okay, we'll talk. We might even build a model for that if we have time. Okay, so Unit 1, let's open that guy up. Here's our homework, and you can see the Moneyball data sets in there, Moneyball test and Moneyball, and this is random here. What I've done is I'm showing you what you've got to give to me. See, here is the data set we're going to use is right here. Let me open this guy up. I thought I clicked on it. Oh, there it is. It would be great to see if those would let me. I didn't see what it was, William. I'm sorry. Let me see what is. Can someone tell me what William just typed? It didn't. I wasn't able to see. Oh well. William, you'll have to ask it in a little bit. I can't see the chat windows right now. Okay. So this is the Moneyball data set, and you can see I've got this index. This is the number of wins. This is your target. You can see I've got some missing values here, all sorts of stuff. We got all that stuff going on. Okay, so that's the data set. Here's the data set you're going to score. After you build a model, you're going to score some data that you don't know what the target is. So you don't know. You'll notice I don't have how many wins they have. Here's team number 9. We don't know who they are, but they had 1,209 hits. They had 170 doubles, blah, blah, blah. You don't know how many times they got hit by a baseball, but, that's a missing value. But this is kind of all the data that we have, and you're going to take that data and predict how many times this guy got a base, how many wins they had. Now, what you're going to submit to me, now see, this is the index. This is how I know what team we're talking about. What you're going to give to me is something that's going to look like this. It's going to look like, just wait a minute, it's going to have 2 columns. Now, we're going to go through the whole process in a minute, but it's going to have 2 columns. It's going to have that index, there's team number 9, and you are going to give me P_target wins. This is your predicted value of the number of wins. This number here, I have rolled a dice. That's how I got this number. I used a random number generator. This is not true. So don't go copying this, because you're going to get this answer right here, 275.482. Okay? That's not a good answer. So don't give me that. But you're going to give me a true answer right here. And then I'm going to score it. So does everybody sort of have a feeling for what we're about to go after right now? Does anybody, let me, James, you take a look at the chat window. Does everybody seem to be getting this, what we're trying to accomplish?
Hold on.
I want to see about 3 or 4 yeses across the screen, and then I'm going to be happy.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay, terrific. Okay, so let's build a model. Okay. The first thing we have to do is, remember, we got this data set here, and what we're going to do is we got to get the data. That's step 1 of any process, is you got to be able to somehow look at that data. So I'm going to create a file. Let's go up here, and I'm going to say New File, New SAS Program, and we're going to call this thing, I'm going to save it right now, even though there's nothing in it, and I'm going to call it Sync 411 Moneyball 2015-0116.sas, and we're going to save that guy right in there. So let's see, we should have a file down there in a second. So if you look down here, see, there it is right there, sync, we've got it, it's empty, there's nothing in there, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab some code that I've already written, just a little bit, so that we can get, as opposed to you typing this. But this is stuff that if you were to actually use some of Raymond's code from, either you can use this code right here, oops, I have to hit Control-C, don't I? Control-C. You can either use this code or you can use the code. Remember Raymond Andon, he has his How to Get Started, in SAS Studio. You can use some of his code. But this is the path that goes to this data set. Okay, it's going to be home. Your login account is mine is DKW Northwestern University. So yours is going to be home, and James Kwong, yours might be home, James Kwong, whatever your SAS Studio login is. My courses, Donald Wedding, because that's your instructor, C88888, that's the course that SAS gives it, Predict 411, and then Unit 01 homework. That's the whole path to this guy. Okay, so I'm going to just copy this thing and then get out of there. Okay. So you guys might want to take a quick, later on, I'm going to hold it here for a second. You guys might, take a look at this code that I have right here and copy it, and you guys can probably, if you're having trouble accessing the data, just copying this. The only thing you'll have to do different is this thing right here. Change this to your login, okay? That's it. Now, in theory, if I were to do this, proc print data equals homework Moneyball observations equals 10, run. If I do that, I should get a printout of the first 10 records. See, there they are. Does everybody see what I just did? Now, just for fun, if you really want to get crazy, you can create a macro variable. Let infile equals homework Moneyball. And then I don't even ever have to type all that. I can use a smaller name. So if ever I type in the word infile, and I start it with one of these little ampersands and end it with a little dot, he's going to go up here and say, oh, this must be a macro variable. And then he's going to go flying around here looking, and he goes, hey, there, look at that. Infile is a macro name. And he knows that every time he sees the word infile, he's going to shove this code in there. So that's sort of a neat little thing. So that's kind of what I did up here. I've got me. And every time he sees me, he goes, what's me? And then he says, oh, that's Don Wedding, DKW Northwestern University. Or it could be, Nancy Thrall. Or it could be James Kwong. Or it could be, let me think, I don't want to just pick on the same people over and over again, but, it could be Jim Perkins or Matt Coleman or Brent Mental. All of you people. It could be anybody, whatever your login ID is. So that's a great way to do it. So I would copy this code. I would use this instead of typing it in by hand. Okay, so let's start off. So now we can see that we actually have access to the data, right? So now the first thing that I usually will do is I like to look at the data. So let's take a quick look at this data. Now we know it's all continuous data at this point. So how about if I run a proc means, and I'm going to say data is equal to in-file. Now proc means, for you who are new to SAS, that's an important procedure that you might want to know, okay? It's worth looking this stuff up on Google, or if you had the little book of SAS, it would be useful. But Google is very effective, okay? So proc means is going to give us average values of this stuff. So I can tell this thing a lot of stuff. I can say, give me the mean value, give me the median value, give me the number of values there, and also give me the number that are missing. Okay, so I'm going to ask SAS for all this information, and I'm going to hit run. So I'm going to comment this stuff out because I don't need it anymore. So let's just take a quick look here. And SAS is going to give me all of the metrics. So you can see that the number of wins that I have, the average is 80 wins, and none of them are missing. Okay? This is the number of base hits that the guy has. Now remember, a base hit is a guy who hits a base hit or a single or a double or a triple or a home run. Okay? Why do they do it that way? I don't know, but that's how they decide what a hit is, okay? I'm not a baseball expert. But the average number is 1469. The median is 1454. You can see that none of them are missing. We don't have to fix any of those guys. We don't miss any. So, but let's take a look at something like this, hit by pitches. Okay? I got 191 of these guys, and I've got 2,085 of them are missing. I would probably not even use that variable. There's so many of them are missing, I don't even want to use it. Okay? So this is the first thing I might even do. So let's go back over here to the code, and let's create a new data set called temp file. So data temp file, set in file, run. Now if I do this, all this is going to do for people who don't know a lot about SAS, I'm going to read each line of in file one by one. So I'm going to read each line of Moneyball one line at a time. And I'm going to dump it into this guy right here, temp file. That's all I'm going to do, nothing special. So all I'm doing with this code is I'm making an exact copy of this thing. So if I actually print temp file, proc print data equals temp file, run. We don't want to print all of them. It'll take all day. Observations equals 5. There we go. So let's do this really quick.
Done.
Yes?
Is there a reason you have a dot on the in file? Is that you have an ampersand in file dot?
This guy here is a macro variable.
Why is there a dot? I've used it without a dot.
Yeah, the dot is optional, but it's a best practice. If you don't put the dot there, it will still work. There's a lot of good reasons. If you start getting really, really sneaky and cool with macro variables, those dots start coming in handy. But I always put the dot there because it's a good habit to get into. And if nothing else, if you don't put the dot there, it doesn't turn it green. And I like it to be green because that means it's a macro variable.
Great. Thank you.
So the dot is optional, but it is a best practice. And if you start putting that dot there, people will mistake you for a SAS expert because a lot of people who do SAS coding don't put that dot there, and it marks the true connoisseur from the common hack. So you throw that dot on there, and people at a job interview, and people think you're a genius. So that's a tip, kids. Write that one down.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to hit this run, and we're going to just print the first 5, and you're going to see that. And if you guys, if somebody's like really advanced with SAS, I'm sorry if this is basic. We're going to get to the modeling in a minute. But you can see here that, you know, I've just copied the temp file is just, you know, that's I've just made a copy of it. But that's not what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to start doing stuff. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is let's start throwing away stuff that's got lots of missing values. So let's go back up here again. Here's a neat thing. If you highlight this stuff and you hit Shift F3, it will just run that highlighted code for you. So there you go. So, okay. So let's see. What do we want to throw away? We want to throw away this hit by pitch guy, don't we? Because he's not helping us. So this is how I would be building a model. I would say let's get rid of hit by pitches. And how do we get rid of that? We say drop hit by pitches. And what else do we want to drop? Anything else we want to get rid of?
Index?
No, well, index we want, well, I suppose we don't need index right now, do we? If you want to get rid of it, we can. But we're going to need it for our scoring code, okay? What else do we need? Anybody else want to chime in? This is going to be a group exercise. Anybody, come on, cheer in, chime in, people. Don't be shy.
Hey, Don, I have a question, actually.
Okay, go ahead.
In terms of dropping variables, before we actually drop variables, do we want to see if we want to do anything based on that variable, like creating new variables?
If you want to, you can. This is what I would do in a real-world situation, is I would have so many of those variables are gone, you know, missing. Okay, I'm going to give you, if I had all year to do this, I would monkey around with that, okay? However, we don't have all year. You got 3 weeks, okay? This is a street brawl. So when you got 3 weeks to beat somebody in a street brawl, the trick here is you want to get fast and you want to get in and get out, get in, get out, get going, get home, or whatever that saying is, you know, get in, get out, get going, or something like that. So you're gonna probably drop both of those guys right there, okay? So, oh, that was my sister. I should have probably taken the message there. My sister's gonna be knocking on the door any minute, so I may have to put you guys on mute and run up and answer the door, okay? So, anyways, let's see here. What was I saying? Okay, so this is what I would do. You're right. You should probably, yeah, you can, if you kept caught stealing, you can. I mean, I'm just showing you some techniques on how to get something fast and quick. In a real world situation, I would look at so many of those guys are missing, I would say I'd probably just throwing that away. Okay. So, what I would probably do at this point is I might say, okay, let's run this thing and see what we get. You can see the index is gone, and in fact, if we look at caught stealing, that's gone too. Okay, so let's take a quick look and maybe run proc means on this stuff. So let's copy this. Let's comment him out. We don't want him to run anymore because he's just going to waste our time. So let's come down here and let's do this temp file here. And let's run this guy again. Okay, so there, we got a smaller list. Now, what you probably are going to want to do is maybe do a proc core. I don't know. I'm now at this point, the first thing you're going to probably want to do is fix some of these missing values. Okay? if nothing else, probably the easiest thing to do is either fix it with the median or the mean. That would be my personal recommendation. If I were to have an advanced tool like Enterprise Miner, or if you have access to some kind of decision tree software, this would probably be a, you might want to use something like that. But you guys don't have a lot of time. So again, the trick here is you're going to want to do something to get results, because your boss wants results. He doesn't want you to let perfect be the enemy of good. So let's see this one. Okay, this guy here, strikeouts, batting strikeouts. And what's the mean here? It's 750, so let's do that. Or the median is 750. So let's go back over here, Control C. Now how would I do that? Well, I would do this. If missing, then equals, what was it, 750? Was that what you got there? Was that what I had? Was that what I had?
Yes.
Okay, now watch. Let's run that thing and see what happens, guys. I bet you we should not have any missing values now. See, look. Batting strikeouts, 750. Look at that. We don't have any missing. Okay. Now we can do the same thing with stolen bases and caught stealing. Okay. What's stolen bases? Let's do the median again. That's 101, right? So let's do that guy. So.
Hey, Don, it's James. I had a question on the imputing data.
Okay.
The question is, so there are other methods other than the mean, and I found this one, the proc MI is one way, and there are other ways as well. But my question is more broad. It's based on the fact that you're using your test data set to apply this other way of imputing these missing variables. Once you create your model and you have to implement your model and you implement it on new data, how are you going to be able to impute in that same sophisticated way?
Well, okay, first of all, proc MI is a very powerful way of fixing missing values, but it's not appropriate for a predictive model. The reason why is proc MI, this is inside baseball talk for people who may not know what that is, but it's a sophisticated tool if you are not going to build a model that you're going to put into production. The reason why is proc MI is you would not be able to create standalone score code with a proc MI. Proc MI is just going to crawl around, look at your training data set, and guess from it, but it's not going to give you any rules that you can use to fix new data. Now, let's look at what I'm doing right now. Right now, I'm looking at a training data. I'm going to build my model with this guy. So I'm building my model with Moneyball. Okay? That is my training data, not my test data. Okay? So what I'm doing here, in fact, it's not even all that sophisticated. It's pretty trivial. But it's actually, even though, don't let simple fool you. Simple sometimes can be very effective. But what I'm doing is I'm looking at my training data. So I looked at caught stolen bases. It's 101, and there's 49 caught stealing. So let me fix those ones. 101 and 49. Okay, so let's do 101 and 49. Now, your question is, what happens when we want to put this model into production? And we now say, that, what happens when I want to score new data? Well, what you're going to do is whatever you do to your training data, you have to do that exact same thing to your test data. So if I'm going to fix my training data with the number 750, then when my test data rolls around, I'm also going to fix it with the number 750. Even if the test data has a median value of 650, it doesn't matter. If I did 750 for the training data, that's what I'm going to do for the test data. Does that make sense, or am I confusing you?
No, that's good to know. And in this way, in using a mean or median, we can do that. But it seems like when you get into any more kind of sophisticated ways of doing imputing your data, without knowing exactly how that's done, it's hard to implement.
Yes, that's why proc MI is a bad choice.
Yeah.
But if you were to use a decision tree is nothing more than a bunch of if-then-else rules. So a decision tree might say if the number of hits is equal to 1,000, then the strikeouts would be 700. But if the number of hits was, 500 instead of, use 200. In other words, I could do something. A decision tree might give me something sophisticated like this.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Oh, I don't have to show you? Okay. So incidentally, this is a neat way of saying if something is missing, but in SAS I can do it another way too. I'll show you another way to do the same exact thing. So let's do another guy. How about over here, strikeouts by pitcher? Okay, let's do that guy. So there's we'll call it 813 is the median. Okay. Here's another way to do that exact same thing. I could say if team pitching strikeouts is equal to dot means missing, okay? Then what was the number, 813? Oops. There you go. Let's take a quick look. Let's see what those results were. Was it 813? Yeah, 813. And let's do the very last one here. Team fielding double plays. Let's do that one as well. What's that, 149? Was that 49? Does anybody remember? I think it was. Yep.
Yeah, 49.
149. Joyce, this is all your fault. You know why it's your fault, Joyce?
Why?
Otherwise, it would be my fault, and we know that's not the case, right?
Of course.
That's a little instructor humor, folks. Okay. So at this point, I fixed all the missing values, and I threw away this guy because I thought too darn many of them were missing. Okay? I don't know if this is a perfect way of doing it, but let's get started. I mean, this is the best way to start this stuff, is just dive in. So remember, you got to build 3 models. So what I would do is, look, I don't have anything missing. Woohoo! Terrific. Okay. Now what are we going to do? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is we've got something here. Okay. How about it? Go ahead.
So I have a question on the hard coding of the need, right? If we use the macros and the I think it's a sum call. What is this? Simput.
Yeah, simput. Yes.
Right. If we use that process against the Moneyball training data set, will that work when we run? I mean, will that be okay when we run it against a test data set?
No, it won't, because what it will do is it will be using the stuff from the. It would be using the information from the test data set when it runs it. In other words, what it's going to do is when you run that macro call, he's going to be running the data on the test data set and then using those values. So you shouldn't do that one. I probably should have taken those call simput's out. I'm toying with doing that because it will probably confuse more than help. I was too clever by half, I think. So
yes, because I spent a lot of time doing that code, and now I have to remove it. Okay.
I'm so sorry about that. But you know what? Those values, though, The reason why you want to do that in the immediate term is because it's a quick way of making changes on the fly and trying stuff. But the bad part is when you, well, you know what though? You don't really have to make changes to your code. All you have to do is find out what those values are, and when you write your score code, hard code them in. Okay.
Right. I will. You know, what I'm thinking too is making the data set name in a macro. No, can't. It has to be hard coded. Okay, I'll hard code them. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so okay, so does everybody see, do I have, you know, I'm going to, Joyce, I'm going to ask you, can you look at the chat window for me, and does everybody kind of see where we're at right now? I've got some data here, and does everybody see that I fixed it so that there's nothing missing? We got a bunch of
3 yeses, 4 yeses, yep.
A lot of yeses.
We're good. 5 yeses.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with model number 1, okay? So I'm going to do proc regression, proc reg, data equals temp file, okay? And I'm going to do model, and what's my target variable called? Does anybody remember? It's called target wins. There it is. Target wins is equal to, and then all we need to do is get a list of all of my records. Let me just copy these guys. Or not my records, all my variables. Okay, so this is one way of doing it.
Okay, so another question on this step.
Okay.
For those variables that were imputed, will you also need to add that missing flag equals to 1 here or 0?
No, because I fixed them. You see what I did? I've got them. I fixed them. I've read the data in, and I'm fixing it. It's no longer missing. Does that make sense to you, or are you confused?
Well, I'm confused. I guess a lot of the discussion board or some of the postings was to do with that missing flag and also the deck, the PowerPoint deck. It says that if a variable was imputed, meaning that it was fixed, then the regression model is more accurate by including the missing flag.
Oh, you're asking, do you want that flag? Okay, I didn't do any of those flags, but I can create a couple of them if you want.
No, that's okay. I just want to know, say you were to create them, they should be included in this regression model, right?
Yes, if I created them, I would put them in there. I didn't even do that, but I'm going to create one just for fun. How about that? Okay. So I'm going to call this one missing team strikeout.
Right,
Go
but
ahead.
theoretically,
Are you okay?
Yeah, theoretically, you would have to have one flag variable for each of the missing, for each of the variables that had missing data.
That is correct.
Okay, and then you would include that as kind of like a couple, or whatever, 2 variables. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I'll say M, so I'm going to create a flag called M teams.
The class I work with.
Oh, we got a question there? Oh, no, sorry about that. Okay, so there. This guy right here.
I think somebody needs to go on mute.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so there, I've just created a flag variable called M team batting strikeouts right there. And then I would put that guy in here as a possible variable in the model. Okay, so I'm going to build a regression model on all this stuff right here. Now, I'm not even doing any sort of imputation at all, or I'm sorry, transformation. I'm just taking it raw. So this is kind of how I do things in the real world. I quickly fix the data, and I throw it all in there and see what I get. So let's run this guy and see what we get. Let's see how good this model is. So we got to wait a second or two. Boy, do you guys have to deal with this kind of slow speed?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So let's take a look here. I've got, what's my adjusted R squared on this thing?
0.31.
Hey, very good. 0.31. Where was it? Was it up here anywhere? Oh, there it is. Adjusted R squared. 0.31. Okay, so I've got a 31% R squared. And that's kind of, that's just starting off point here. Just for fun, we might go and try to do something like take the same data set again and maybe do a, I don't know, how about a proc selection equals forward. No, I like stepwise. But that might take too long, so we're going to just do forward. There you go. So we're going to do forward selection. So this is going to, did you guys remember back in the days of Predict 410 what forward selection is? Anybody not
Yes.
remember what it is?
How can anybody forget that?
Well, I know. Maybe it's been a long time. Does any of my former students remember what my position on stepwise selection is?
Yes, that's the
Whatever.
one you choose.
No, it's not the one I
Whatever
choose.
we have.
What do I tell you guys? What do I tell you?
In the
test
street
everything.
brawl, use everything.
That's right. It's a street brawl. Try them all. See which one wins. Okay? You pick up a brick in a street brawl and you throw it at the guy. If it misses, then you pick up a I don't know, what else can you throw? A bottle. You throw everything, everything but the kitchen sink. Okay, so now what do we got? This guy here went to, oh, look, this is forward selection. Okay, forward selection, adjusted R squared, 0.314. It didn't do much better, did it? Pretty much put everything in there, didn't it? Well, put a lot of the stuff in there. Okay, so, well, did we got them all here? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many variables? Did we get them all? Heck, I don't know. I think it's the same model.
Yes.
Okay. So this is already getting started off. So now we already know that the forward selection isn't going to get us any better. I'm going to guess stepwise and backwards aren't going to do any better either. So now what I might do in a real world situation is maybe I might start seeing, okay, I've now got something to beat. 31%, that's what I want to beat, okay? And you guys are probably originally, before you took this class, were running around going, uh-oh, I want, 31%, I need 90%. No. We now know 31% is probably pretty close to where we want to be. So I don't know what I would do. I might start doing stuff like proc univariate. Okay, so again, if you don't know what that is, you might want to hop on Google. It's a really neat little guy to look at. So I would say data is equal to temp file, and let's give it the plot option here, and we'll do variable. And here's one that's kind of neat. Let's look at this guy right here. And in fact, let's do two things. I want to do something else. I want to do proc means again. Proc means data equals temp file. And now I'm going to do min, max, mean, And then maybe I'll do, what's the P1 and P99. Okay, don't worry about what that is in a minute. var. And I happen to know that team pitching is going to be an interesting one to look at. And let's look at this guy right here. So let's run this guy real quick. So remember this. So if you're going to watch this video later on, let's, I'm going to just pause it for a second. You might want to look at proc means and proc univariate. Okay, so let's take a quick look at those guys. Okay, so here's proc means is up here. The minimum number of, hits that a team allowed. So the pitcher threw the ball and gave up 1,137 pitches. But the maximum number was 30,000. That's a lot of hits. The average is 1,700. And the 1 percentile and 99th percentile is between 1,200 and 7,000. So there's some real big outliers. And the reason why is, remember what I told you before, this is data from 1900 to, 2006. And these teams from 1900 were made up of they played 11 games, and, it was made up of guys who were a dentist, and he played baseball in his spare time and stuff. These were not professional players. So you play 11 games and you end up giving up a bunch of hits. When I normalize this to 162, these guys end up giving up 30,000 hits. Okay, so we're going to probably want to do something about that. But then when we look at proc univariate, look at this. I've got a big chunk of people down here at 1,500 hits, but then I got these outliers here. So that's another thing is, let's take a look at this and maybe get rid of this this outliers. Now, how would I do something like that? Well, there's a couple of ways I can do it, and we'll try a couple of these guys. Okay, so let's come down here, and I'm going to create another data set. We're going to call this one data temp file 2 set temp file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an exact copy of temp file and dump them into temp file 2. Okay. So what are some things that I can do to get the outliers, get rid of outliers? Well, I talk about two ways right in the notes. I could do something like this. I could say team pitching hits like this. And I could do a log transform of that. So I'll do log of that guy is equal to log. I like to make it lowercase. That's one way. Okay. I could also do cap it. In other words, I'm going to just say, and then I'm going to say if is less than, what's the 1%? So I could do something like this. I could say the minimum is 1137. So I'll say if it's less than I'll say if it's less than 1244. How about that? Because that's the 1 percentile. All data, 98% of the data will reside between these two numbers. So I'll say 1244. Oops. Let me do this just a second. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say this guy is equal to this guy, and if he's less than 1244, then I'm going to make him equal to 1244. And if he's greater than, well, give me a number. We'll say if it's greater than, I don't know, let's see, what was our results? And I'm going to say if he's greater than, I don't know, 7,000, then we'll make him equal to 7,000. So there you go. So there, I've just created two new variables on the fly. So why don't we just do that real quick? Let's take a look at what those look like. Proc univariate, and let's see what the log transform looked like. And maybe this guy here.
Done.
Yes.
What is the difference between using the proc univariate and using the SG plot histogram in horizontal box?
Not a lot. SAS is a language that's been around since the 1960s, and it has thousands of ways to do everything. A lot of times I'll do something because it's force of habit. I'm used to doing it a certain way. Doesn't mean it's the best. Other times, like for example, the syntax for proc univariate, I know it right off the top of my head, whereas SGplot, I have to start thinking, and I don't like to think, okay? So this is a quick way of doing it. So I'm going to create this new data file. Then I'm going to print it to show you that I've created new variables. So let's just quickly do that.
Hey, Dan, I think you need a semicolon in line 94.
Ooh, you are right. That was a test. Now, who succeeded in finding that?
Yeah, this is Ariel.
It was Ariel? Okay, Ariel, yes. You passed the test.
All right.
There you go. I was sitting here thinking, boy, I really hope somebody catches that mistake. So there it is. Look at that. Ariel, you're going places in life. Okay.
All right.
So I don't know. Let's see what I'm doing here. Now, incidentally, guys, I'm making this up as I go. This doesn't necessarily mean that this is the best model. I'm just saying this is kind of how I'd be approaching it right off the bat. So let's see. Let's run this guy again. Now I'm going to print this new data set. Now you're going to look at this new data set. And look, way down here at the end, I've got these two new variables floating around. Okay. There's other transformations we could do, but let's just look at that. So what I would probably do if I were you is I would take a quick look at these things and see if any of them are pathological. There are any of these variables running around here with huge outliers that might be screwing with me, okay? I don't like that. So let's see if we can do something to fix it. This is how you fix it. You know, you go in here with this data set, and there you go. So if I do a proc univariate on that guy, let's just see what they look like. Let's see if I fix the outlier problem. Okay, so this is, I've capped it, but you can see it's a lot more, you know, I might even cap it at a higher number, like, or a lower number, like 3,000. So you can see that the capped one is a lot more, you know, less pathological. And in the meantime, let's take a look at the other one, the logarithm one. Look, that one's a lot nicer too. So these are two things that are, they're a lot less, you know, dispersed. I have something that, you know, these might give me better results. So I don't know, let's take a quick look at that. Let's just see if I run this thing again. I'm really hoping that I get a better result, because otherwise I'm going to feel pretty stupid. But
So I have another question on doing the regression model with the transformed variables.
okay.
Do you also have to create a flag that the variable is not only imputed but transformed and include that flag in the regression model?
No, you don't have to do that. Well, you know what? I've never seen it done, but I don't know. I can't think of a reason to do that, but just because I've never seen it done and I can't think of a reason to do it doesn't mean anything, okay? But I would probably, my instinct right off the bat says probably won't help you much, but I never like to say never to a student, because what the hell do I know? I mean, you're asking me to think off the top of my head on this stuff. I can't think of a reason to do it, but you know what? Doesn't hurt you to try it. But I've never seen it done. Does that answer your question, Sandra?
Well, it does and it doesn't, because I don't see the logic of including the flag for the imputed
Okay.
variable.
I'll give you a good reason to put a flag in there.
Okay.
In auto insurance, okay, if I fix your variable, like let's say I say, how many traffic tickets have you ever had, Sandra? And you say, I'm not telling you. So it's missing. Okay. Now, all of a sudden, I go, well, I don't know how many traffic tickets Sandra has, but the average is 2. So I'm going to give Sandra 2 traffic tickets. Okay. And then I go and I run it, and sure enough, it's fine. Sandra's just like everybody else. However, in the auto insurance industry, guess what? If you have 2 traffic tickets, you're kind of risky. Okay. But if you have 2 traffic tickets and you don't tell me about it, in other words, you lie about it, you suddenly are super risky, because when you lie about a traffic ticket, you're lying about other stuff. So that the fact that it's missing is actually highly predictive. And what the auto insurance companies will sometimes do is ask you stuff like, hey, Sandra, how many traffic tickets you got? And then you're going to say, oh, I don't know, I can't remember. And then they put down missing. And then they go out to a place called Clue, C-L-U-E, and those guys say, Sandra's got 2 traffic tickets. And they're like, thank you. And then they go and they say, Sandra's got 2 traffic tickets, and by the way, she lied about it. And then all of a sudden your auto insurance rates go through the roof, because if you lie about one thing, you lie about other stuff.
And so that flag is kind of an indicator of a riskier observation.
Yes. So does that kind of see why sometimes a missing value, the fact that something's missing actually can be highly predictive?
Okay. So that logic doesn't apply to the transformations at all, and therefore a transformation flag is not needed. So,
that's correct. I don't think that it does, but like I said, who knows? So okay, so let's run this guy and see what we get. Let's see if I'm hoping I get a slightly better answer, but who knows?
Hey, Don, I have a question about the transformation variables that you included.
Okay.
So since you included, it looks like you included the transformed variables and the original variables. So I was wondering why you would do that instead of just including, for example, the transformed variable.
Well, I'm just wondering.
Is it usually helpful?
Well, no, in this case, I'm using a forward selection, so I'm letting God tell me which one was the best variable to use.
Okay.
So what I did was I put them all in there, and the log transform made it in. And let's see, does team pitching hits, is that in there? Oh, man, it's in there, isn't it? Well, I don't like it.
Yeah, it shouldn't be in there. I mean, otherwise you're accounting.
Let's just take it out.
Well, hey, Don, could you throw in a VIF at the end just to see if there's like a lot of multilinearity?
Okay. That's a good question. That's a smart thing to do. A professional statistician might have thought of that, huh? Someone who does this for a living probably would have thought of that. Let's see. Team pitching. Let's get rid of that guy. I don't want to get rid of it. You're right. I probably should get rid of it because it's got that outlier, and I just don't like it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to keep these two transformed variables and see what happens, and we'll also put the VIF in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a, regardless of what happens, I'm going to create a real quick and dirty model, deploy it, score it, and then we can declare victory. How about that?
But theoretically, one should not have more than one of the variables, right?
I would.
Either the,
yeah, I wouldn't.
You would, okay.
I would not. I would not. I put both of them in there hoping to say, I did two different transformations, and then I'm doing a stepwise selection, and I'm saying to SAS, hey, would you do me a favor and tell me which of these you like? Now, I'm hoping he doesn't say I like both of them, you know.
Okay.
If he does, then I'm going to have to, I probably am going to take one of them out, but I'm just going to see. Is this helpful to you guys, or is this beginning to confuse you and make your eyes glaze over? I'm getting, you know, I'm just talking off the top of my head, and I have no feedback of seeing your faces. So is this boring you or confusing you or any bad, you know, stuff like that?
No, it is very helpful. I mean, to me, it's going to save a lot of time. So
okay, because like I said, I'm not fishing for compliments as much as I just don't see human faces staring back at me. So I don't know what's if you know, if I've got people in front of me, I can see when I'm losing people, and I don't know if I am. Okay, so what do I got here? Still, I haven't. My model has not yet, you know, done very well. But let's just see what's all in there. Well, both the cap and the log are in there. Let's see. Here's my variable inflation factor. So I could probably get rid of some of this stuff, like these guys here, home runs. I mean, I got some stuff I could probably do. I mean, this is one of those things that I do take seriously, is the variable inflation factor. They got a lot of, you know, I've got some. In case you guys don't remember from Predict 410, usually when you get values that are beyond, let's say, 10 is when you start going, I've got stuff that's highly correlated. I ought to get some of it out of the model. For example, you know, the price of the guy's car and the amount of money he makes are correlated. You don't want both of them in the model because they tend to fight it out. So you would probably take some of these things out, like I'm going to take out this capped one. So just for fun, let me just build a real quick and dirty model with just one or two variables in it so that we can deploy it. So let's say that we're going to do a model with, I don't know, the log transform. Let's do, so how many times, you know, base hits that these guys give up. Let's do how many base hits they have, how many home runs, and, I don't know what else. How many times your guys get a error, and what else? Was there anything else? Let's do the stolen bases too. So I got a little everything in there. Okay, there we go. So what I've got is how many times, and let's put them in order too. So I've got I'm going to use the capped one just for fun. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a predictive model, and I'm going to say that I'm going to use how many times you stole a base, how many base hits you have, how many home runs you have, how many times your pitcher gave up a base hit, and how many times your baseball guys out in the field bobbled the ball and screwed up, okay? And that's just going to build a model with that. And I'm not even going to do any VIFs. I'm just going to build the model. Okay? Is everybody okay with that? Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's do that. And this is the model I'm going to go with. Let's just see how good it is. I'm hoping it does better than 31%. Uh-oh.
My column again.
Uh-oh. Who was that?
Adiel again.
Emil. Oh gosh, you're catching me here. Okay, let's try that again. So we're almost.
Don, it's James. I'm just trying to fine-tune my approach here. It seems like on both the 410 course and also on the some of the kind of helpful questions for assignment 1 leans towards this exploratory data analysis a lot more. From what I've seen so far, we kind of jump into a model. Is that typically what you would do, is try to kind of clean things up and just try it and run something first? Or,
yeah,
or
that's what I do. I usually run something first so that I know what the baseline is. Then I start doing the exploratory data analysis. I kind of glossed over that, like looking at correlations and stuff like that. We could even do that too, correlations and stuff. What I do is I usually start off, throw everything in the model, and I say, okay, that's the thing I got to beat. Okay? Once I got that, then the next thing is then I start doing exploratory data analysis. I look for outliers. I start doing transformations. That's the kind of stuff that I'll do. I'm just trying to show you guys a quick overview, cradle to grave, building a model. And then, if you guys understand the mechanics of all this stuff, you're not going to, you'll be able to get something done between now and next week. But I'm not saying EDA, exploratory data analysis. I'm not saying that it's bad because I'm not doing it here. I'm assuming you can do stuff like that from 410. I kind of did a little bit of it with the proc means and the proc univariate, but what I really want to show you is the technique that I do. I fix all the missing stuff, and then I throw it into a model, and I say, that's the starting point. I got to beat that. Now, you see that my monkeying around, I got actually a worse R squared value. But that's not the point of this. I want to show you guys how to create a model that we can deploy. Okay? So let's pretend this is the model I like. Okay? Then these are my coefficients right here, are my parameters. Do you see that? So already what I would probably do is, starting off on this, is I would say, okay, I see that when I steal a base, I'm more likely to win a game. And that's true, because when I steal a base, I'm getting closer to getting a run. And when I get a base hit, I get a run. So I'm happy. And when I get a home run, I get, see, these are all positive values. Now look at this. When my baseball team, when my pitcher gives up a base hit, that's bad, but yet I got a positive number here. So you probably would want to talk about that and say, I shouldn't be rewarded for doing something bad. That's not something that makes sense. So I might take that variable out of the model just because it doesn't make sense. Okay? But I want to leave it in the model right now because I want to show you how to deploy something. And so, okay, and then I see that I got a negative coefficient here, and that makes sense because when I screw up and my baseball player drops the baseball, then I'm going to probably lose more games. So that makes sense. I got a negative number. So this is kind of what you're going to do when you say, does the model make sense? Okay, so let's quickly deploy this model. So I'm going to copy this stuff. And let's go back over here. And this is going to be a little bit, hey gods. Now let's not do it that way. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Now we're going to create a standalone data step here. So data score file, and then we're going to say set. And what we're going to do is we're going to score this guy right here. Remember this guy right here? That guy? So let's print what he is real quick. Remember, he's the test data set we're going to test on. So proc print data is equal to homework dot Moneyball test observations equals 3, run. So this is the test data set that we're about to score. So we should get, this is, I just want you, what you usually want to do is make sure you can get at your data. So it's running, or for some reason it's not working here. I think it's, I'm wondering if it's running the whole thing. Oh, I didn't hit Shift F3, so oops. Let's try that again. Shift F3. Well, you guys really have a tough way to go. If this is as slow as it does a proc print, that's not good. I hope it doesn't crash on me, because that would make me sad. Huh.
You may be sad because my side is also not responding.
Oh, your SAS is not responding either?
Yeah, same thing. You guys just running and running and running.
Oh, darn it. Uh-oh, this could be bad. Oh, they better not have like an outage, a scheduled outage or something right now. Huh. Well, let's see if I save this, what happens.
Yes,
Oh.
it's the third Saturday of every month, and tomorrow is the third Saturday.
It can't be. But weren't they out? Wasn't it down last week?
Yeah.
Yes, which it doesn't make sense. That's what I thought too. But tomorrow is a down day, so great.
Well,
Okay,
tomorrow's
let's
a down
try
day.
again. Huh. Well, let me see. Let's try this one more time. Well, I should have hit Shift F3 here. 1 minute. Let me just X out of here. So let's go back in there.
Yes, something is down because I'm running just the lib names and the macro for the file name, and it's clocking nonstop.
Well, darn the luck.
Mm.
Okay, well, watch this. Oh, geez, this is horrible. Well, you know what I'm going to do is when it comes back up, I will, because obviously this is not good because I want to show you how to score your data, and I can show you on my computer version of SAS, but that's not going to help you guys. So what I'm going to do is something else. I'm going to just stop this recording shortly, and then as soon as SAS comes up, I'll make a little private recording, and I'll say, okay, you know, it'll be it'll be part 2. How about that? Okay?
Sounds good. Yes, sounds good.
I will create a score file down here, and what I'm going to do is score the data, and I'm going to show you where it resides, and then I'm going to download it and show you where it is you should hand in, okay? So,
Don, could you also add in maybe the logic to kind of chop off part of the data so that it limits it from
what I'm
high value, low value?
Yeah, I'll show you what I'll do. As opposed to running it right now, I'll show you how to deploy this. We can't run it, and the reason why we cannot run this thing is because obviously SAS. And you know what the funny thing is, and here's the part that you're not going to believe. When I was just down there in SAS in North Carolina at the sales kickoff, the guys in SAS education are it's like, why is it that students don't like using SAS on campus? And I said, I think I have an idea, because you guys keep making the damn thing go down right when their homework is done. And they're like, that can't be it. And I'm like, no, I think it has something to do with it. And you know, this is it right here, gang. Okay, so.
Yeah, completely agree.
It's a great language, but sometimes they are a little bit insensitive to the needs of the students. But I'm working on it, people, I promise. It's a great language. You got to know it if you want a good career in this field. But unfortunately, there's a painful learning curve here. Okay, so I'm going to say data score file, and I'm going to, whoops, that's not what I want. And I'm going to say score this guy, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it there. What the heck? Don't you hate when this happens? Oh, I know what the problem is. SAS is down, remember? So I'm going to have to type it in by hand. Moneyball test. Run. Okay. Now, hopefully, I can come up here and do something. Now, what you're going to want to do is you're going to, first of all, where did we do all that missing value fixing? Right here. This stuff right here. You copy it. Copy it. And I really hope that it gets... Let's see if it pastes in.
There's a proc standard that allows you to do the replace the missing values with the means, but I can see that it's actually not that useful when you're deploying.
Yeah, it won't be useful for deploying. Okay, so you see how, remember I had all this code right here that we fixed the missing values? Let's go down here. And there it is. So what's going to happen is Moneyball is going to come in here, and it's going to fix the values just like it did. So remember, anything I do to the training data, I got to do it to the test data. Then I got to come up here, and I did this, remember? So I got to copy this stuff.
Hey, Don.
Yes, sir.
It's Brian. I just logged into my account. I was able to run the a piece of code I had saved and got the results. So I'm guessing sometimes if I stay logged in too long, it like has a hiccup in the system. I have to log back in. I just have to log out and log back in.
Okay.
So you may want to try that.
Yeah, I think I will.
If you can save this file first.
That's a good thing to do. I'm going to save it. Okay. Well, I already just saved it.
Okay.
There we go. Sign out. I'm going to sign out and sign back in. See, that's something that happens as students tell me that all the time. They say, hey, Don, I was working all day and I didn't save a single thing, and SAS crashed and I lost everything. And they say, should I save often? Should I save my work a lot? And I always tell students, no, don't save your work, because I think it's really funny when you lose everything.
That's a bad joke.
No, it's not even a bad joke. I want to make you go, hey, he just wants me to lose everything, so I'm going to show him and save everything. You know, this is reverse psychology. I tell it to my kids. You know, I don't want you to put your dishes away. You know, I don't want you to pick up your shoes. And they're like, well, I'm going to do it anyway, Dad. So.
I think that sounds like, you know, my dog ate my homework. You're really in trouble.
I like to copy it all into a text file and leave it on my local machine as well. I know that when SAS did the upgrade for a while, Ray said he could not get any of his data files. So you never know when SAS is going to upgrade and you're going to lose access for a week or two.
You know what? That's not a bad idea. I'm just kidding, guys. Really save this stuff, and I'm not kidding. You've seen it right now in front of you with your own eyes. I work for this company, and they're not paying me any special attention. You don't want to be. You do not want to be in a situation where this stuff might not be working for you. Okay, so let's start running it now.
The other reason that I like to have my own copy is someday you may not have access to all this code that you wrote, and you may want to go back and look at an example and be like, oh, I had a macro for that or something. It's a lot easier if you have everything saved on your local machine or in a thumb drive or something.
You know what? That's a good idea.
That's you don't
Brian,
have to worry about it, but yeah, that's me.
Hey,
you
Brian,
don't have to worry about it, but some of us do.
Well, I know I save my stuff on here too. I mean, that's because I write stuff on the fly here. Okay, so everything's running now. Thank you, Brian, for telling me to do that. I didn't realize that sometimes you might run into a time limit issue.
I don't know if it is running for you, but it did just run for me.
It started.
There we go.
It seems to be running for me right now.
That's good.
And it solved my problem too, Brian. So thank you.
So hey, does everyone pick up on that? That's an interesting situation. Is you can run into you run this thing, and if it's not running and it's just going log out and log back in, there might be a time limit. Oh, you know what? I would be willing to bet there is, and I'll tell you why. SAS is kind of concerned that students are going to be like running a private consulting business off of their machines. So if they have a time limit, it limits what you're capable of doing. So I can kind of see it from their perspective. But I probably shouldn't have run all this code again because it might take a few minutes, but I'm hoping that it finishes shortly. So almost done. Does anybody know any good jokes or interesting stories or anything like that while we wait?
We can talk about the new Nintendo 3DS.
I don't know what a Nintendo 3DS is, but my kids are infatuated with this Wii that my dad, their grandpa, bought them this Wii thing on a TV. And
oh yeah, does it have the little tablet thing that you can use to play games with?
They got all sorts of stuff on there, and these kids are up there. You know, they play this little Mario thing up there, and they love it. And so, okay, here we go. So, anyways, you see that I've got this little score file here, and I did everything that I did to the training data. I did exactly the same. So this is your score. But we're not done yet, guys. Because now we have to do this. P target wins is going to be equal to what? It's going to be equal to this stuff. Okay, now remember, it all has to line up, otherwise it doesn't work. Actually, it does work. I've got issues, people, okay? I'm not OCD, I'm CDO. The CDO means it has to be alphabetized, you know? Okay. You guys look up OCD. That's a funny joke. Okay, so anyway, the intercept is 8.3, so let's copy that guy. Plus, let's see, oops, plus the stolen bases times this. Does everybody see what I'm doing here?
Yes.
Now, I know, Sandra, you see what I'm doing, but there's some people who haven't said anything, and I want to make sure they understand. Is there anybody who has, if you don't understand what I'm doing, you got to tell me right now, okay? Okay, everybody's saying yes, but that doesn't mean that everybody, do not be afraid to say no if you're not getting this. Okay.
So do you always put a plus whether or not the variable is supposed to be a
yeah, because you'll see what I do, because we're going to get to a negative one in a minute. I just do plus because it's easier for me. So let's see. This is team batting home runs. So let's see. Team. Okay, copy. Now remember, guys, okay, now remember when you're writing your write-up, you're going to say, hey, this guy doesn't make sense. Because remember, this is positive, and it probably should be negative. Okay. And last, but certainly not least, we got this negative guy. But watch this. I add the negative value, no problem. See? And incidentally, everybody, I'm kidding about not saving your work. I really do not want you guys to lose everything. I was trying to make a point. So do not lose your work. It really makes me sad when that happens. So don't do that. Okay, so there you go, guys. That's it right there. Now what we're going to want to do is let's just print that guy real quick. Proc print data equals score file observations equals 5. Run. So now let's just run this guy real quick, and I'd be willing to bet we should have, see, look at that. Now if we look way down at the end, there's our number of wins. Now here's something that Raymond did. You guys can put something in your code right now. Remember way up here at the top, you might want to do something like this. Oops. Here's a best practice for you. Proc means data equals min max var target wins. Run. Let's run this thing really quick. I'll show you a neat little trick, okay? So the minimum value, the minimum number of wins is 0 and the maximum is 146. You know what I'm going to do? Let's do P1 and P99. How about we do that? P1, P99. Let's do that instead. So we're going to see what most people get. In other words, what's a sane number of wins for a team to have? So most teams have more than 38 wins and less than 114. These are reasonable numbers, okay? So what I would do is after, and this is a good thing to do in the real world, what I would do is after you're done, I would say if the number of wins is less than 38, then the number of wins equals 38. And if the number of wins is greater than 114, then the number of wins is equal to 114. So in other words, it's possible that maybe you get some outliers. Well, if you get those outliers, what a neat thing to do is let's cap them. because that's what your boss is going to say. Why do you have, because that's what Raymond did. The first thing he submitted to me, he had a screwed up thing with a minus 111. And I said, Raymond, you can't have a minus 111 games unless you're the Cleveland Indians. And he said, wow, that makes sense. I made a Cleveland Indian joke for people. They were a really bad baseball team from my hometown. Anyways, so Raymond put this logic in there. So make sure that you have sane answers, okay? So here, this is score code. So one of the things you're going to submit is something like this so that I can score new data. Do you guys see how I did that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do one final thing. Now we got to score this data so that here's a neat thing also. Let's do this. Keep the index, and we're going to keep this guy. So we're only going to keep these two because that's the only thing we care about. Remember, guys? This is what you got to hand in. So let's do this.
You need a semicolon.
I do? Did I forget one? No, I don't think I did. Maybe I did. No, I got it. I got one.
You got it. Sorry.
Okay. So look at this, guys. I only have those two variables. And remember, that's what you got to hand in is just those two variables. Okay. Now, how do you get this onto your computer? This is as easy as falling in love. Okay? Watch what we do. We're going to do libname, and we're going to say outlib, or whatever you want to call it. We're going to name this, Sandra, you've been helping me. I'm going to name this library after you.
All right.
Okay. And then we're just going to do, I have to find out what it is. Just a second. Wait for it. No, it's not there. It's over here. I have it in here. It took me a while to figure this out. Here it is, right there. So here's what you're going to do. Only, remember I had that macro variable at the top? Well, you don't have to do that. Let's just do a DKW Northwestern University. Okay, there. That's my home directory. Your home directory will be something different. It'll be home, James Kwong or Sandra or whatever.
Don,
Yes, sir.
if you wouldn't mind, I don't know how many students know this already, but if you were to right-click on like the HW01 folder or one of those folders, just right-click on any of the folders over there.
On the folders.
Yeah, go up, and just just right-click on one of those folders, anyone. It doesn't matter which one.
Oh, right-click. Okay.
Yeah. And it'll pop up many. If you go to Properties, it'll give you the location.
What do you know?
Where you are. So
Well,
if you made a new folder, you can do that. You can put your cursor inside that location, push Control and A at the same time, and it will highlight it all. Control and C will copy it. And then that's a way that you can get your path to whatever folder you're working in if you don't know it.
Okay, well, you know what? You guys can't go into my folder, so you guys can't write here, but you can write in other places. I didn't know that. Thank you, Brian.
That's good stuff.
Okay, so anyways, your home directory will be this. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to say data, and then remember, Sandra, we named our library after you. So we're going to let's call it SandLib, so that students later on, they're like, what the heck's a Sandra? Okay, SandLib. We're going to change. Sandra, you've lost your status here, because I'm afraid of confusing future generations. We're going to call it ScoreLib.
It's lib or lib.
I hope this hasn't ruined your day. Okay.
My night,
Scorelin.
my weekend.
Okay, scorelib dot,
It's
and
an
then,
it's not scorelib at the top. It's scorelin.
oh, you're right. Thank you. Scorelib. So we're going to call that Don file. Set, and remember, what did we call it? We called it score file up here, remember? And voila. And then we're going to hit run. And watch this. And we can even print the file if we want. Proc print data equals. This is going to print the whole file. I'm going to just print it to show you how big it is. This is probably what they call a mistake. But we're going to do it. You know why? Because I live on the edge. There we go.
Hey Don, is there any way that we can take the output file and actually calculate whatever, like a R square or something, some error indicator that actually we can use to test our model against the test set of data, and then actually get one mesh?
Okay, well, I can show you how to do that. But before I do that, let me show you. We'll finish this part right here. Okay. This is how you can do it. Okay, so you see that I've created Don file, and we actually printed the results. So there's Don file right there. You see that? Okay. And there's Don file right there. So if I double click on Don file, it should open up and it will be exactly this. Now I'll show you how to create. See, there it is. That's the file. Now you say, okay, Don, great. Now how do I get this and hand it in? Okay, you highlight Don file, come up here, click on this guy, download, and you save the file. And then you look down in your folder, and you should have something called downloads. There it is. That's a SAS file, and you just email that to me. Well, along with your write-up and your other stuff, but that's what you're going to send to me. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Okay. I'm hoping that if you got this video, you should be able to watch it. One last thing, somebody was saying, well, Don, how can I calculate stuff? I'll show you. Let's go back up here. And instead of being Don score file, wait a minute. Is this what we were doing? Okay, yeah, here it is. What the heck? Oh, wait a minute, this is the old one. Okay, here we go. Okay, what you could do if you wanted to, if you want to calculate your own error message or your own errors, this is what I would do. I would come over here and let's put in a data set that you know the answer to, because we know the answer to Moneyball, right? Are you okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's keep the target also. So we're going to keep 3 variables. And this is only going to work when you know what the answer is supposed to be. So let's do that. And so what you can do is if you run this thing, see, I said number 1, 39 wins, the for the the NFL one. And the neat thing is it's due a week after the homework, so we got some time here. But anyways, this should be enough. Dive into, give yourself 1 or 2 more days of this exploration, give yourself a model, and get fired up and get going. So that's, so this is pretty much everything that you're going to need to, I'm hoping that in order to get this stuff done. Does anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts, criticisms, whatever you want? This is the time to ask them. And I'll be posting this by tomorrow.
Just a real quick question, Don. On the logic to cap the end results that Raymond did.
Okay.
If you actually go back to your regression output, I'm not sure if it's there anymore. If you actually rerun the regression or have that output, there's a chart, there's a graph there that charts on the y-axis the targeted results, and then the x-axis is the predicted results. And you can see, actually, when you actually run it, you'll see it. And my question is in regards to that chart or that scatter plot actually kind of tells you how far you're off from the target.
You're right, but that's for the training data, and sometimes you get test data that you didn't know. Yeah. I mean, you get something pathological in there. So it's not going to hurt you to put something like that in. But this is probably because Raymond had something where he had a negative number of wins.
I understand. So my question is actually, can you go further than that? Can you actually go back to the results to that chart? It's right there, right at the top. Sorry, it's a little bit up. If you scroll up, you'll see predict. Okay, right there. Target wins right there in the center. Yeah, one below it.
This guy here. The target wins versus.
Yeah. Right. So actually, if you look at that, you can see. Okay, here's the target wins from my training set. Here's the predicted value, and you can see that it's kind of skewed in terms of the relationship between the two. Now, I know we've done a manual kind of cap of the target wins, but is it actually possible, or have you ever done it where you say, well, the data kind of looks like this in the test, I believe it's going to look like that in the real world, and there's a skewness that I can't explain, and I'm just going to insert some logic to make it less skewed, to chop off bits and pieces so that it actually fits a little bit better. This
is a street brawl. If it makes sense and it gives you good results, you can do it. However, here's a caveat. If you are in a heavily regulated industry like insurance or banking or something like that, you may have to explain what you do to a regulator. They do it all the time. Like I'll sit there, I remember when I was in insurance and we would come up with a price, and then the guys are like, then the product manager of the state of Michigan is like, well, yeah, but we're trying to get more people up in Kalamazoo, so I'm going to lower their price by $50. And so they'll put in some logic. If Kalamazoo, then price equals minus 50 because they're trying to enter that market or something. You can do anything you want, but but remember, if it's if it makes sense and it's giving you good results, you can do it. However, the one caveat, you may have to explain it to a regulator. You've got to make sure it's legal to do it. Now, it's legal in insurance to do something like that, but then you can't say, oh, I don't like people who are, I don't know, from Mexico, so I'm going to charge them more. Well, that's illegal, and it's wrong, so you shouldn't do that. So you've got to make sure that what you're doing is legal and ethical, too. So you see what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Okay. So any other questions or thoughts? Okay, well, I'm going to not share my laptop anymore. Let me see. Share. Stop sharing. Okay, back to me. Okay, any other questions? If not, I'm going to call it a night here. Well, I'm glad you think so, Sandra. So anyways,
Hey, John, I have
go ahead.
a somewhat random question. Completely random, actually. So you were talking about insurance, I guess the insurance industry. And I was wondering if the stuff that you showed us today is kind of what actuaries do?
Yeah, they kind of do stuff like this, only their stuff is, of course, they got to really crawl into the weeds, and their statistics is a heck of a lot more advanced than this because they don't have a nice linear regression. They have stuff called, a gamma distribution and something called a Tweedy distribution where, a big chunk of, there's like a big giant spike at 0 and then, like a nice bell. Because like most people don't crash their car, so there's a big spike at 0. And then if you do crash your car, then you don't have like $1 of damage. You usually have like at least $1,000. So they have all sorts of other more complicated things. But if you understand this, you can make the leap to the more complicated stuff. But you gotta crawl before you can walk.
Got it. Thanks.
So Scott, I know that you are an insurance guy, so you know Tweedy. So anyways, so guys, I'm calling it a night here. So well, thanks a lot, Brent. I'm hoping that if you guys have questions, again, this will be posted later on and or tomorrow, and get started on this. And if you get a choice between spending time with your wife and children and husband, or working on the NFL challenge so that we can beat Professor Ott, what are we going to choose, everyone?
NFL.
That's right. I'm just kidding. You guys, that's bonus points. Family is more important, really. SAS, yes, good going, Brent. NFL neglect family. Okay, Nancy, you got your priorities in order. You all do. That's good to know. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording now.